Good evening, everyone. Welcome to LFC Transfer Room. I'm here today, joined by Paul, and we'll be discussing all the action that's happened that took place this weekend in the Premier League. Liverpool won fairly comfortably against Brentford. We Reds are now top of the league, even if City win their game in hand. So it's still quite a title race going on in between us, City, and probably Arsenal as well. They're still they were fairly convincing in the last few matches as well. We'll try and discuss the performance against Brentford. We'll try and discuss the injuries that kept piling on, and the week that we're gonna have with the match against Luton, and then obviously the FA Cup final. Paul, how are you tonight, mate?
Oh, I am good, man. I'm always in a good mood after a win. Looking forward to a very important week coming up for us. It's kind of a pity that we have a game on Wednesday whilst Chelsea is resting for the rest of the week. But as Liverpool fans, we're accustomed to these things not going in our favor, so we just take it as it comes. Hopefully, we can get a win on Wednesday, but most importantly, no more injuries, and then we can look forward to the final on the weekend. But other than that, I'm doing well. How about yourself? Are you fine?
Yep, all good. I've came to my hometown for a week, and I've freshly shaved today, so it's the first time being on stream
Oh, oh,
since.
I noticed that.
So yeah, good to have you, Jay, and everyone. Please drop your comments. Let us know your thoughts on the game, on all the things that have been going on this week. And make sure to like, subscribe, and be part of the conversation. We'd love to obviously see everyone's thoughts, and to try and integrate everyone in this live stream. Okay, first of all, we're gonna try and discuss the Brentford match. Now, in the end, it was pretty comfortable, dare I say. Even though it was a 12:30 kickoff, we didn't have Trent, didn't have Soboslai, Salah was on the bench. But in the end, 4-1 win. Mo Salah is back with a bang. And 3 points on the road. Paul, what did you think of the performance yesterday?
It is kind of a bittersweet. The sweet is we won 3 points. There's nothing wrong with that. And I had looked at this game about 2, 3 weeks ago, and I was a little bit worried about it because Brentford at home is not necessarily an easy game for us. As a matter of fact, the last 2 years we didn't win there. We lost and draw, I think, if my memory serves me right. And with Ivan Tony back, I was expecting a dogfight from them. Um, so getting the 3 points quite comfortably was a pleasant surprise, but it came at a huge cost. We lost some players, hopefully not for long, but when you see players being stretchered off, it's usually not a good thing, not a good sign. And the part that I hate is the 2 or 3 days between when the player goes down and when we hear any confirmed news of their status. There are so many rumors going on. I see people suggesting that both players could be back in 2, 3 weeks. And there's also rumors that both players could be done for the year, for the rest of the season. So it's just to wait to know exactly what is happening with our players. That's kind of a little bit anxious right now. I am kind of concerned about. I know we should beat Luton at Anfield, but until we get to 3 points with a weakened squad, you never know. So it's a little bit anxious right now being a Liverpool supporter, because we don't know the status of these injured players. We don't know the status of those players who should be coming back soon. So until we get some clarity later on in the week, it's going to be tough for us. I don't know how you feel about that, but to see Jota going off on a stretcher, man, it was not a. But the rest of the game, I was a little bit down just to see our players with our long list of injuries. So let's hope we get some good news because we really need it.
Yeah, I think not knowing is probably the most frustrating thing at the moment, because we saw obviously Jota and Jones go off, and up until now we still don't know the length of the injuries, so we don't know for how long they'll be gone. Jen seems to think they'll be fine. We will be fine. Yeah, it is going to be a pretty tough time up ahead. Um, still, obviously, I think Jota was in hot form ever since coming back from injury. I think we could always rely on him. He was always our slaughter, and yeah, losing him now before the EFL Cup final is tough, and not only Jota, but also when you think about Curtis Jones, I think this was he was probably one of our best players this season. I think I remember when we discussed our best midfield. I remember you, Paul, was saying that Jota was probably the first one on the team sheet. Sorry, Jones. And
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. Honestly, I think he's been fantastic this season, and it's obviously a huge blow. And yeah, same as you, we've seen reports of Jota maybe missing 2 3 weeks. We've seen reports of maybe missing the whole year. So I think that's quite frustrating now, because we still don't know on the players that we could count on up until the end of the season. So that is going to be difficult, obviously, but let's try and discuss some positives from yesterday. I think probably the biggest of them all is Mo Salah coming back from his own injury and from his time spent at AFCON in Africa for Egypt. He didn't start the game, came on probably a bit earlier than the initial plans were, but he set up McAllister's goal. He then slotted one of his own, and he bagged the goal and an assist after, what was it, like 2 months of absence, something like that. So
Right.
quite the performance from the king, from Mo Salah. Paul, what did you think of him coming on and his performance in general?
Typical Mo Salah. Once Mo Salah is on the pitch, stuff usually happens. And it's just a stark difference between watching Mo Salah playing with top players in Liverpool and watching Mo Salah playing for his national team. Totally different. And it just goes to show that when doesn't matter how good a player you are, you need good players around you for you to shine. Um, he looks fit. He looks sharp. I mean, the first five to 10 minutes he was a little bit off, but because and my guess is he came on a lot earlier than he was expected. Maybe the manager told him he's gonna come on at around about the 65th minute for about a half an hour. So you could see he had to rush to come on. So the first 5 10 minutes he was a little bit, a little bit slow, but he grows into the game and it does what Mo Salah does, which is an assist or a goal or both, as as happened yesterday. And the entire front line looked sharp yesterday, even before Jota went off. He looked quite sharp. Cody Gapco came on late and he took his goal very well. Darwin, are we going to say about that goal? When I saw the breakaway, I was saying, man, I was so nervous for him because he had like about 3 or 4 options, and he chose the most difficult options, but it was a beautiful finish. He could have gone around the goalkeeper. He could have passed it to Jota. He could have that little curl shot that Salah is noted for. But he went for the one option that I didn't know that he had in his locker room, that little dink, and it was such a beautiful finish. So everybody looked sharp yesterday. Gravenberch has been a little bit off the last couple of weeks, but yesterday I saw it was one of his best games in a Liverpool shirt. He really looked the part in that second half yesterday. So I don't know. Maybe we need some injuries like this for the other players who have not been getting their opportunities to really shine. Because Klopp has shown, especially with Connor Bradley, that if you deserve a place If you deserve playing time by how you perform, you will get playing time. So I thought Gravenberch was really good yesterday. Cody looked very sharp for the time he was on. So even though we are really tough on the injury front, maybe we might just be able to scrape through, but we can't take another injury for sure. My guess is for the game against Luton on Wednesday, we may see one or two of the youngsters involved, maybe McConnell or Bobby Clark, because even if we don't get any more injuries, because we have a big final on Sunday, I don't think Klopp would want to have McAllister and probably even Endo go the full 90 against Luton because we don't have the backup in the midfield right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. So we just hope we can get two early goals and then we can take the game easy. But having watched the game today between Luton and Manchester United, I mean, they are no mugs. They can play. So it's going to be interesting week ahead. Let's hope we can pull through.
Yeah, I think going back to some of the things you said, I think it's obviously great to see that players are stepping up, as well as Squidly said on chat. I think indeed for the past few weeks now we've seen players coming on. I think even in the 4-1 against Chelsea at Anfield, we remember Jota came on and he scored. Hakpo, sorry, came on and scored. And then obviously ever since then, pretty much every match we've seen one of our subs at least coming on and getting something out of the game. And obviously that shows now that after a few years where we didn't necessarily have a lot of options, maybe even forward or maybe even in midfield. Now we can afford to still field a pretty strong side, even with injuries. We've seen, our top three, our front three, sorry, doing pretty well, even in Mo's absence. We've seen Diogo Jota and Nunez obviously scoring quite a few goals and getting quite a few goal involvements as well. So yeah, I think obviously there is some truth to players now getting chances with some of the injuries that we've had. I think even in even with Trent, if I remember correctly, he came on when Klein got injured in 2017-18 for like a longer time. Um, and then he came on, and then that's where we started to see more of Trent. And obviously, we've seen now the same with Connor Bradley, with Gravenberg as well yesterday, as you said. So yeah, I do think that we can still field a pretty strong 11 now. The only problem is, for me at least, the only concern that I have is that we are going to have quite a few quite a few games coming up in a pretty short time span. We're going to play Luton on Wednesday. We're then going to play Chelsea, and then I think we're going to play Southampton midweek as well. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, against Southampton, we can, and even against Luton, as you said, we can field we can play some of the youngsters as well. But the only problem is that we now really we need pretty much everyone to stay fit, because at this point it's getting more and more difficult to stay competitive across all competitions. So yeah, it is going to be quite difficult.
Yeah.
But moving on, I said that we are going to try and discuss some updates on the injuries.
Hmm.
Um, we now know that Soboslai might be back for the EFL Cup final, which would be a big boost considering the options that we now have, or rather we don't have. Trent is most likely going to be out still for a couple of weeks, so we probably won't see him play even against Southampton a week and a half from now. Um, and again, yeah, with Jota and Jones, we don't really have any sort of news. So now, Paul, what's your take on these news on Soboslai and Trent, and how do you think we could maybe try and navigate the next few weeks, considering that we really need everyone to stay fit now because we can't afford really any other injuries.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm really hoping that Szoboszlai is able to play on the weekend against Chelsea, even if it's just for a half or 60 minutes, because it's a big game. It's our first final, and we can't win the quad unless we win on on Sunday against Chelsea. So I hope he's back. I think we can safely rule out Trent, Jota, and Curtis for that game. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed that nobody goes down on Wednesday. But having said that, even though we really don't want injuries, sometimes injuries can work to the benefit of the club, because sometimes it forces you to play the younger players to give other people chances that otherwise would not have gotten the chance. Because let's face it, if Robbo and Simicas didn't go down and we were forced to play Gomez on the left side there, and Trent did have his little issues here or there, we probably would not have known how good Connor Bradley um, was. If I was kind of devastated when Matip went down for the year, because Matip is one of my favorite defender, and I always think that when fit, Matip and Verge is our two best centre back. Now the injury to Matip really bring Kwanzaa to the front, because we were forced to give him more game time. Up to the end of last year, I knew about Kwanzaa, but I had no idea he was this good, and he's so young. And even though we haven't seen much of um, McConnell at the six, the little I've seen of him in a couple of games here or there, he seems to be a talent. So if we can get through this little period here, just imagine the depth we will have later on in the season when hopefully everybody is back. I think we can safely roll out Thiago and Bajcetic for the rest of this year, because I've lost confidence in Thiago, and I am of the opinion that Stefan is being given a year off. I think the club sees Stefan as our long-term six. So with Endo, we can give him a year off to just grow and develop. But hopefully, as the real test will come, in another month, 6 weeks, when we are really pushing for the title. So let every team have a month or two where they have a lot of injuries. So let's hope, by the middle of March, end of March, when we're really pushing at the business end of the league, that we have that the manager would have the headache of too many players to choose from. But hopefully the youngsters will come forward and will show us what they are made of. And so far, it's very encouraging. We have some really talented youngsters. So let's see. But I'm fairly, let's say, optimistic that we should be able to pull through. And that City dropping 2 points yesterday did not hurt at all. So, let's keep our fingers crossed, that we can pull it off.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what you said, and it's more than maybe there are some players that we don't even remember are injured at this point, like Joel Matip, as you said, and like Thiago Alcantara, Stefan
Mm-hmm.
Bajcetic as well, who did offer us a lot of depth. And I do agree with that Joel Matip shout. I do think that he was extremely underrated at his time, and I think in that quadruple season in 2021-22, I think he was our best center back. I think people are quick to praise Vert van Dijk, but I think Joel Matip was absolutely amazing that season with some of his runs. I remember him running and then getting past two, three players and getting into
Yep.
close to the box. He had an amazing season back then, and obviously now to yeah, we did lose him at the beginning of the season, and um, which kind of raised a few questions about us signing players. But then, as you said, it might have been a blessing in disguise because then Kwanzaa got all that time to all those minutes, and then we've discovered that we have someone like someone that's maybe like a Virgil van Dijk regen, a younger version of Van Dijk. And yeah, I think as you said, and as Arthur said in the comments as well, these injuries might be an opportunity for the youngsters to show what they're capable of. I think the match against Norwich was a great example of that. And as you said, we've had McConnell with an assist in I think his first 10 minutes on his debut. So yeah, if we get through this, and if we get through this in one piece without any other injuries, and maybe with some silverware at the end of the week as well, then I do think that that will give us quite a big push for the rest of the season. Um, so yeah, it is going to be quite tough. There are still quite a few matches to go, and we'll discuss a bit towards the end. We'll discuss the title challenge as well. But up until then, we've discussed that we've discussed about the possibility of winning silverware next week. But up until that Chelsea match, there's still one pretty important game as well in the league against Luton on Wednesday. Now we do have 3 days off until then, and then 3 days off in between Luton and the EFL Cup final. So I wanted to ask you, is it too much to start thinking about maybe playing McConnell in the Luton game as well? Um, who do we play? Who would you play? Who would you start against Luton? Considering that we now have that game kind of was moved now in between the Brentford game and the Chelsea game, and we now have this one in between where we obviously want to win it and stay top,
Mm.
but we also want to avoid injuries and keep a lot of players fresh for that EFL Cup final. So the question: who would you start?
Mm-hmm. And there is where it's a delicate balance, right? Because I'm sure you agree that the Premier League is the most important of the four competition that we are in, and it's kind of we can't be thinking about too far ahead of playing Man City at Anfield in 3 4 weeks time and dropping 3 points against Luton at home because 3 points is 3 points. It doesn't matter whether you're beating Luton, you're beating Spurs, or you're beating Man City. So we the if we have to play the youngsters, I would prefer to push them in a game like say against Southampton in the FA Cup because we don't want to lose that. But for me, the Premier League is the priority. So where we are right now with the injuries that we know about for the game against Luton, I would start um, with Gavin Birch, Endo, and McAllister in the middle there. I will probably Elliot to come off the bench. Now, hopefully, we don't have to play, especially McAllister, because he has had his little niggles here or there. Endo seems to be made of steel, right? So let's hopefully we can be up 2 or 3, so we can give Maka a rest late in the game. But we Luton is the best of the three bottom teams. I would be more comfortable if we were playing Sheffield or Burnley at home. But Luton is we should be able to beat them because we have more talent. But they will be coming gunning for us because we couldn't beat them at their place, and they are aware that we are a lot of injuries. Plus, they are also aware that we have a big final in a few days. But I would hate a situation where we drop points against Luton because we play too many youngsters and the team is out of sorts. Up front, I would still start Mo Salah because, as I said, we need to get the points. We can't mug around too much and say, oh, it's Luton because there's nothing that is sure. So I would start Mo Salah up front and probably, well, Jota is out, obviously. So we will be down to Mo Salah, probably Cody Gakpo, and Lucho. That would be because Darwin came off Darwin came off halftime, and even though he's probably not injured, but there must be some concern. I think there's some concern with him, why they took him off. So just hearing that, I would not probably start Darwin. Probably would be on the bench, but I wouldn't start him because if he has any concern, injury concern, I would save him for the weekend. So I would start Cody, Lucho, and Salah, and then in the middle it would be the three that I just mentioned, and at the back it would be the same four that we started last game. And of course, I would not risk Allison as well. I would just keep Queeve in the goal. What about you? You agree or you have any? What what would be your team?
Yeah, I actually do agree with pretty much everything you said. I think I would pretty much start at all the players that you've mentioned. I think that would be the safe way to go because obviously there is the possibility of winning a trophy on Sunday, but at the same time, if we could sign a contract now that says we lose that final and win the Premier League, I think all of us would take it immediately. So
Right, right.
we don't want to drop points against Luton, and I do agree that we do need to play field basically the strongest side that we have now available because um, we don't want any surprises, especially against Luton, who indeed are capable, but maybe not as much away from home. I feel. So I'm
Hmm.
hoping that we won't have any actual problems on Wednesday. I think a name that we forgot to mention during the injury conversation was Allison as well. And all the comments praising Callagher, we've seen them, and I think I would also agree with that. I think Paul, your opinion on Callagher would be pretty much the same. I think he saved us quite a few times against Brentford and even against Burnley. If you recall, I think he had
Hmm.
two saves, one-on-one saves. I think against Burnley as well. So yeah, with Kelleher, I think he's been criticized maybe unfairly for a few times when we played him in the cups, and so I do think that his performance in the last two matches was great, and it shows you that we do have a keeper when Allison is out. And speaking of Allison being out, hopefully we can get him back for the Chelsea match as well. That's quite the name that we forgot to mention, or maybe I forgot. Sorry to add to the conversation. Yeah. So
Well, I think if my memory serves me right, that I've seen somewhere where Klopp had said that Kelleher would get all of the Carabao Cup games, so suggesting that Kelleher would start against Chelsea even if Ali was fit. So any one of the two is fine. I just don't want to see Adrian because I just have no no faith in that guy. But I don't know, man. This Chelsea team, we should be able to turn them over, but my confidence is not as high now as it was when just after we turned them over at Anfield because I saw them against Man City yesterday and they were fairly organized and they have players that can hurt you. So, and they will be motivated, probably even more so than us, because we are talking about possibly winning four trophies. This is the only trophy that they have a chance of winning this year. So I think they'll be good. They will be given 100% or more um, for this one. So we're gonna have our work cut out for us. If we have a fit squad, I think we should be able to turn them over. But with all the injuries and players, with are we rushing Sabbathfly back just because of this game? You know what? So it's gonna be tough. But if we have no more injuries, I think we should turn them over. I'm really gonna miss Curtis Jones because I really like him in the middle of the park. But this is why we have a squad. So this is Gavin Birch opportunity to grab that number 8 spot and just make it his own because there's no doubt about the talent of this guy. So if Gravenberch can give us a really proper game along with Maka and Endo, that's a decent midfield, and we should be able to turn them over. But well, I guess we have to wait and see.
yeah, I think one thing that I would like to to add to was the Gravenberg shout. I think I don't know about you, but I've been extremely frustrated in seeing some of our uh, fans, some of our people in our fan base, slag him off and telling that, or tweeting stuff that he's not good enough for Liverpool, that he has no place in this team and stuff like that. I think it's impossible for me to get that kind of mentality. You have a player who's 21, who's been, he's in a new city, in a new town. He's has new people around him. It's, it takes some time to settle in, especially in a league like the Premier League, which is obviously a lot more intense than pretty much any other league across Europe. So I think Gravenberch will be fine. I do like him a lot, and whenever I hear people saying that he's not good enough, I would tell them to maybe watch that Man City equalizer that Trent scored in the 80th minute at the Etihad. It was Gravenberch that took the ball 20 yards away from our goal and then
Mhm.
basically held on to it up until passing it to Lucho Diaz on the left, who then passed it back to Trent. I think Gravenberch has a lot to offer, and obviously, I do think he'll be fine in this team. So, yeah, and as you said, I think it's going to be difficult to play Chelsea now in a 90-minute match. It is a lot different than playing them at Anfield, and obviously we now have quite a few players missing as well. But I do think I do agree with you, and I do happen to think that even with the injuries, even with Chelsea being capable of being a bit more organized, I think we have the capability, we have the players, we have the talent. I think we are better than them in pretty much every department. So I do think that we can safely get the win there. But let's try and move from the EFL Cup back to the Premier League. Now we've seen, you've mentioned Chelsea being a bit more compact against City yesterday. We've seen City drop points, and I don't know how many of us expected that. I thought it was going to be quite a throbbing, but apparently Chelsea held on to it. They got the draw. I think, to be fair, they were a bit lucky. I think there were quite a few challenges inside of the box that on another day could have been given for City. I do have a mate who's a City fan, and he texted me during the match and told me that they've had like three or four appeals for a penalty. Now I've only seen them on the replays, but yeah, on another day it could have been given. But at the end of the day, we are still top of the league, even if City win against Brentford on Tuesday. So 1 point ahead, 13, 13 matches left, I feel, and
Mhm.
a game against City at Anfield in 2 weeks' time or three, something like that. I'm
3
not
weeks.
sure.
Hmm.
So, Paul, how do you view this whole title challenge? Because it's us, City, and maybe also Arsenal, who are going to be there. How do you rate our chances? How do you feel? Where are we going to end up?
I think we have a decent chance. I acknowledge that City is still the favorite as of today, but one of the nice thing about this year is that it's three teams, not just two. And plus, with us in front of City, is a different it's more difficult for them having to chase us than having to chase Arsenal last year, because they know that we can win 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row as well. And plus, the game that we have with them is at our place, which we have been able to handle them at our place in the last couple of years. So what we are actually doing is forcing City to be perfect just to keep up with us. And this City side is exceptionally talented, but this City side is not as talented as the team that had Riyad Mahrez and Gundogan and that team of a couple of years ago. So there are some holes in this City. So my So, and this is why I always like in these kind of running when we play first, right? Because when we play first and put 3 points on the board, it put more pressure on the teams behind us. I'm not too concerned about Arsenal as much. Yes, Arsenal has looked great in the last couple of games, but their opponents the last two games has been was really bad. So Arsenal have some tough games to come as well. But I don't think City are going to be perfect. They have some tough. I wouldn't be surprised if they even drop points against Brentford, even though we handle Brentford. So let's see. But as I said, it's not a cliche, or it is a cliche, but we keep saying it. We can just focus on our next game, right? We can just focus on the next 3 points. But I think we have a very good chance because City would need to be perfect to beat us because I don't see us dropping a ton of points for the rest of the way here. Most of the tough games that we have coming up are at Anfield, which is who we have at Anfield. We have Tottenham at Anfield. We have City at Anfield. I think the only tough game we have away is Villa and United. Well, United might not be tough, but so I think we have a very good chance as long as we get some of the guys back and we don't lose any more players because we can't afford to lose any more players unless we start to get some players back. But I like where we are. It's really unexpected. A year ago, when we were going through the transition and in the off season, when we were seeing Henderson gone, Fabinho gone, Navigator, Ox, everybody, and then we're trying to get this midfielder, that midfielder. Then we went to bed. Oh, we signed Caicedo. Wake up the next morning. Oh, sorry, he's gone to Chelsea. Okay, we'll go to Lavia. Wake up the next morning, he's not coming. We were all concerned about what team is going to look like. And now we are in first place. So you know what? Let's just enjoy the ride. If we finish second or third, it will be very disappointed from where we are right now, but it would still be a decent season, especially if we can win one of the domestic trophy and possibly the Europa League. So let's just enjoy the ride and hope for the best. But I think we have a really, really good shot. I don't know how you feel about that, but are you optimistic?
I am trying to be, but then I remember the past few title races that we've been involved in. I think
Hmm.
we've been hurt a lot against City, but there is also this thing where I didn't expect us to be where we are
Yeah.
at this point, especially at the beginning of the season. I remember doing some streams in the summer, and I've been saying that I think top four is the best that we're gonna do this year. I didn't think we can challenge for the league, so us being in this position is absolutely amazing now, because when I think about it, we do have that City match, but if we win against Luton now, let's assume we can win the Chelsea game on Sunday. Then we have Southampton in the FA Cup, and then Nottingham
Hmm.
Forest before playing City. So we could be top of the league in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and with the League Cup already won when we face City at Anfield. So that would be massive if we could get all those points. If we could obviously get the trophy and the EFL Cup final, we can win that, get the trophy, qualify for the quarterfinals in the FA Cup, and then be top of the league when we meet City and Anfield. I think that's going to be a huge, huge confidence boost for our team, because we do have quite a few players who are, I think, who have this sort of who get on this on this enthusiasm, who feed on this sort of enthusiasm. Like when I see Darwin Nunez, when he gets a goal, he just lets loose. It's like he. It's just a pleasure to watch him, and I think people around him as well. He has this effect on the crowd as well. He gets, at Anfield especially. So I do feel that I'm here for the ride. I think, as Jurgen said a few years ago, we're just gonna enjoy the ride and see where it takes us. And yeah, I do think that we've had a season that's been above expectations, at least for me. So yeah, I'm just going to enjoy the matches from now on, because I think last season we did have quite a few times where I don't know about you, but I just wanted the matches to be over. Like I couldn't stand it. Seeing
Yeah.
the same midfield, the same lack of creativity, the same lack of fight. I remember, when we played, we had. Well, I'm not gonna mention everyone who was involved in last season, but it was quite difficult to watch a few times. So yeah, that was that.
Hmm.
I think this is all for this evening. I don't know, Paul, if you have anything that
Hmm.
you want to add to what we've discussed already.
Well, not really. As a football fan, though, I'm not sure if you were watching that game just a while ago with Bayern and they were playing Bochum or something like that. So I chose to watch that game instead of the Man United game. Primarily because I desperately want Leverkusen to win the Bundesliga this year. And so now with Bayern losing, I'm not so sure how long Thomas Tuchel will remain as a coach. So the question is, will we have another competition for Xabi Alonso? Because there have been rumors that Bayern is also interested in Xabi Alonso. And if they fire Tuchel in the next couple of days, and um, and then Xabi has to choose between us and Bayern, do we have anything to worry about? I'm saying all of this because I'm desperate for us to get Xabi Alonso. So I am just kind of watching from afar, but we need the right coach for next season. And with these young talent that we have, I think a guy like Xabi is perfect. But maybe I'm a little bit pessimistic, but I'm starting to worry now if he would choose Bayern. I mean, he's settled in Germany. He's doing very well there. Bayern, let's face it, he is more guaranteed of winning with Bayern than winning with Liverpool because he doesn't have Man City and Arsenal to compete against in Bayern. So that's kind of my little Sunday concern. I don't know if I what you think about that.
I did watch the end of the game, the Bayern game as well, and I did start to think about it. I think Xabi Alonso has a really good chance of winning the league now in Germany, and I think if it comes down in choosing between us and Bayern, I don't really think that he even consider going to Bayern at the moment, especially if we
Really?
think him winning the league, against Bayern in Germany this season. I think going to Bayern the next season, and especially when you look at the situation that Bayern are in and the situation that Liverpool are in right now, I think that there's
Hmm.
a lot more to do here at Liverpool. I think there's better prospects for the future within this Liverpool squad, and I choose to believe that Xabi Alonso would rather come to Anfield than choose Bayern. That's at least what I choose to believe, anyways. So, yeah, okay. Thanks very much. Thank you very much to everyone who joined in tonight. It's been a great conversation here between Paul, I, and pretty much everyone here in the chat. Thank you very much for dropping your comments and being part of the conversation. We'd love to have you. And yeah, make sure to subscribe and be back on pretty much every evening, 7:30 UK time here at LFC Transfer Room. Paul, great conversation. Thank you for hopping on and offering, giving us your thoughts on this busy weekend and these busy weeks that are coming up for the club. And yeah, up the Reds.
Thank you.